Nani, hi.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Thank you for obviously doing me this big favor. I like to start with kind of going. Let's travel back in time. Let's go to the past.
Okay.
How was it like for you? How was your childhood like? In terms of like, relationship with family or hobbies, interests, things like that. How was it like for you growing up?
I mean, my household has been Christian literally all my life. Like my mom is a PK. My dad grew up in a church household, so I was born into a Christian household. And it's kind of always been a household of music, I would say. Both my parents have been like musically inclined, so literally since a kid I would be like singing at the top of my lungs.
Yeah.
Just any type of music. They would literally call me Nani Montera.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because I was always singing like songs by Danilo. Yeah, and I kind of always been like the wilder one compared to my siblings.
Are you
I
the
guess.
youngest?
Yes, I'm the youngest. I was the traviesita, the little monkey that would climb everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I always into music. Then coming into let's see, probably starting in like 6th grade or so is when I actually started like trying or wanting to pursue something like in worship and stuff. I would start doing worship stuff at church, and I was a panderista literally since like 4 years old. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah, my mom put me in there because I wanted to be in pandero literally since I guess I was 2, but obviously they wouldn't let me. So I was also like in pandero, and then they did like some other dance ministry. I was in that as well. I guess in school I wasn't really in a lot of school in elementary. Track. I was in track.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was pretty much the only sport. I mean, cheerleading is a sport, even though some don't agree, right? But I was in cheerleading in 6th grade only because it was just something very spontaneous that I decided to do. And then I was in band, and I played the clarinet, and I was in mariachi and played the violin and would sing. So I was in marching band. Dealing with these types of heats that are like in this very moment, that's the type of heat we would like march in.
All summer too.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you would become literally dark. Like your tan wasn't even like a nice tan. It was like one of those that like, oh my gosh, she looks scary. Yeah, and I think a lot of my like worship stuff started kind of emerging, I would say, in high school. Like that's kind of when I started pursuing actual like wanting to be part of the worship team, and that's when we kind of started we called it youth band. So Abner and I, my brother, we started leading worship at our youth. We made a band together there with our youth back when I was in Roca Firme, and we would lead worship there while I was in high school, mariachi, band, all of that. And then I kind of like lost my way. Everyone has those like rebellious years.
That phase.
Yeah, I had a phase. Let me tell you. I had a phase. And it's just like because you find like your high school like crush, and then that kind of like led me astray. So I basically was like, I want nothing to do with, church. I don't want to do anything. Like my parents got so mad at me, and they're like, well, that's too bad. We're going to force you to come with us, which good thing that they did, obviously. Because,
it's a good thing.
Yeah. It was them being, parents that are responsible with their child. But I was all mad, and I would purposefully sit like in the front row like this because my dad sat me down. So I was like
in the front row.
Yeah, in the front row, because that's like just being dramatic. And I basically had like my tipping point, my turning point then in high school. It's like the testimony. Well, part of my testimony, because I got another major one that happened in college. Something that really hit me. I basically like fell into a big depression and in high school. I literally lost a ton of weight, like 20 pounds. Would go to sleep at like 9 p.m. And I was like, how dare you? This is all your fault. I was like blaming God, like, which God can handle our you know, our tantrums towards him. Like he's a big God, and he's just like, if only you knew, like the plans coming that I have for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I fell into rock bottom, like the worst of the worst. I was there, and I would go to sleep at 9 p.m. wanted no connection with anybody, just separated myself from my family, separated myself from my friends, everything, just total darkness. Whoa. And I got to the point where I literally either there was nothing else to do but either give up or go up. Like from here, all we can do is go up. Like everything has to get better from here, because if not, what would happen? Like, you know, like it would be bad. And so I remember there's something that just clicked in me. I believe it was the Holy Spirit saying like, hey, I'm still here. I got on my knees in my room after being literally in the worst place of my life, got on my knees, and for the first time I can truly say that I encountered Jesus, like truly wholeheartedly. Like in like most of your life you see that, and or it's like something that you try to do, right? Because you see other people on the floor encountering the Lord, and like, oh, I'm gonna do that. Like it's like, because it's a routine. It's like I'm gonna do it because they're doing it. So, but this time it was something from me, personal. Yeah, and it was like truly wholehearted. Like I needed someone to save me, and I knew it. And I knew that he was probably the only one that could at that time. I know for sure now that obviously he is. And so I literally told Jesus, I was like, I have nothing, and I need you, because I don't know what will happen to me if I don't find you. Like, I need you. And I just broke down. That encounter completely transformed me. So much so that, like, it was a whole 180. Like, the Nani that people were seeing that had disconnected from everybody, that wanted nothing to do with God, wanted nothing to do with the church, wanted nothing to do with everything that I was called for. I decided from here on, I'm living my life truly for Jesus, not because my parents told me to, not because it's what I grew up with, but because I know that he is the only one that can save me. And from then on, I kind of changed my perspective on things. I was wanting to do all sorts of things, like with college, like study like photography, study like all these creative things, but God literally opened a door to where I studied, which is Dallas Christian College, with a scholarship, and I ended up studying worship arts and Bible. It's because everything has a and Bible. So you study you basically, in my school, it was like you would study psychology and Bible. So I studied worship arts and Bible, and honestly, one of the best things I could do, even though like there isn't really much I can do as an actual job in Eagle Pass for my specific career, but it's basically trained me up in like the theology and doctrine and all of that. Not only that, and like the way I see worship, and how it's not just what I had known it was. Like it was much more than just singing, much more than just finding the right song like on a Sunday. It's like goes far beyond that.
It's bigger than just a show.
Exactly. And that's what I had grown up with, unfortunately. So it basically was another tipping point for me, but more in the theology doctrine side, being in college and actually studying theology. And then here comes the next round of dark times that I had. So most of my college years were pretty good. Like, I enjoyed it, even though I'm an introvert, so I hardly went out. Like, yeah, I know, I can tell you're, yeah, that's how we are, introverts. Like, we love creative things. We love to do things online, but only if they're online and not in person.
Exactly.
You know? So yeah, like I literally only made friends because a bunch of extroverts were like, you're coming with us. So they literally, I that first semester, I fell into a tiny depression again because I'm not good with change. Again, introverts don't like change, like to be cozy, like to be comfy in their routine. And so that's how I am. Yeah. And it was a hard like transition for me coming to Dallas and like with a bunch of people I don't know, you know, having a different school, all the things. Even though, you're gonna laugh, my siblings were there with me. Both my siblings went to college. We all went to college 1 year together. My sister was on her 4th year. My brother was on his 1st year, but my brother was only there 2 years. So we were all there, but it was still hard for me. The change was hard, all that. And again, fell asleep at 9 p.m., would just go to my room, do my homework, go to sleep. Like, really hard transition. And then I had these friends, like, they literally were like, yeah, you're not going to sleep yet. We're going to go out and we're going to go, we went to like this British store where they sold British things. That was like our first outing. It was really cool. So I got to see different things from there. And after that, it was kind of like, that was it. The extroverts adopted me. And so I loved my 3.5 years in Dallas, but then school started becoming like a little bit hard at times. So we would do these things called ministry teams. So some of those things were like going to different churches around Texas, New Mexico, I believe Oklahoma as well. And we would basically like take over a whole service, our team from our school. So we had someone do the preaching, someone do the communion meditation, someone do like the offering. We did worship. I did like a special. And towards like the end of that, I started feeling like used. Like I was being used for the school's benefit. Like it didn't feel like I was worshiping as I should have been. Like, you know, at the end of the day, regardless of the situation, we should always have that heart of worship no matter what, right? But it was getting hard on me. Like, I don't feel like y'all are asking me to sing, you know, to benefit the church or like to edify our brothers and sisters. I think it's more so because you want people to come to DCC. You know, I started feeling that way. But I was like, it's okay. Like, Lord, I know that you have called me. And even though it gets hard, like, I'm willing, you know, wherever it might be. And as hard as it might get, like, I'm willing. And so that was like the second half of my second to last semester to the first half of my last semester. And then my last semester hits. That was one of the hardest semesters that I had to do. So I was in school, since I had worship arts, we had to take lessons. We had piano lessons, guitar lessons, voice lessons. Oh, wow. And we had to be in choir, especially if you're in worship arts. Like, choir wasn't obligation for everybody, obviously. You can choose. It was an elective. But for worship arts people, it was like you had to. It was requisite. And so I had, like, all these juries that you had to do where you play in front of the people. You have your recitals, all those things. And then my voice teacher invited me to be in a collegiate voice competition. And it was going to be in that second half of the last semester. But I had already started practicing in the first half. Okay. And I was super excited. I was, like, ready. I was like, thank you for the opportunity. And, like, I think there were 2 other people who were also going to compete in this. And it's, like, something I had never done. Like, a whole collegiate competition is wild to me because we don't have that over here in Eagle Pass, obviously. But in Dallas, that's, like, normal. Oh. And so that second half comes and I'm literally a ball of anxiety, like a person. I had never experienced anxiety the way that I felt that semester. Like, anxiety is very cliche and like or not cliche, but
like people throw it around a lot.
Yeah, but it's not something that we talk about in the Christian world, because obviously people are like, but you're supposed to trust in the Lord, and you're supposed to have your faith in the Lord. Like, it's okay, you're gonna have worries, but trust in the Lord.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to say, but man, like when you're going through it and when you're anxious, like you feel like no one will understand you, obviously, because no one's in your shoes and no one's in your thoughts, right? Like you're the only one who is able to understand what you're feeling. And I was basically having irrational thoughts, irrational worries. I don't know if maybe I never got checked, but maybe there was like a chemical imbalance, or I don't know what it was. But that semester was crazy for me. So much so that I literally could not go to some of my classes because I had to be in the restroom all day, because it deals with your body, like all the stuff. And it was a hard semester. And I remember like going to God, like, God, what is happening to me? Like, I'm worshiping you, and I know that I have to go to you, and I'm here, but I feel alone. Like, and I know you're here, but yet I still feel alone. I feel like no one gets what I'm going through. Like, no one understands it, because my thoughts are so like far-fetched. Literally, like I'll give you like one of the irrational thoughts. So I would be in the intersection, coming up to the intersection driving, and I would literally be terrified that the green light wasn't actually a green light, that it was actually a red light.
Oh wow.
And that I was gonna die. Like super irrational, far-fetched thoughts. So many of them, and it just like coming like just
this was only in that phase that you were in at that point?
Yes. Okay. And I don't know what exactly triggered it. Like I said, it could have been a chemical imbalance, which happens in your brain sometimes, that can cause that. See, my husband is a therapist, so
I've heard.
He probably knows way more about this than I do. I'm just telling you my experience.
Yeah.
So I actually, my friends noticed how bad I got, and honestly, thank you to them. But they're the ones, they told me to start therapy. I started there in school. We had the blessing of getting very accessible therapy, and with Christian therapists. So I started therapy, and that honestly started helping me a lot. Honestly, at first, it's like you open up a can of worms. I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do with all these worms? Like, it's so much, and I'm overwhelmed, and I don't know what to do with all this. But then little by little, you start dealing with it, and you start being able to manage and deal with what you're dealing with, like your anxiety and your thoughts. But it had gotten so bad, I ended up canceling on my voice teacher, and I didn't do the collegiate competition because it was just too hard for me to just even think about singing in front of people, and competing literally was too much for me. And I'm like, I can't do it. I started bawling my eyes out with my voice teacher. I literally had my accompanist, the pianist. She was the one that led me to tell my teacher. She was like, you have to tell her. You have to. And I'm like, I can't. I don't want to fail her. I'm already going through so much. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to tell her. She's going to get so heartbroken and blah, blah, blah. And then she comes. She's like, I'll go with you. And then she goes with me, and she's like, Dr. Daniels, Nani needs to tell you something. And I'm just like, and I just started crying, like, I can't do it. And then she's like, what's happening? And then I tell her, she's like, it breaks my heart that you felt like you couldn't just come and tell me. And I understand, like, what you're going through. And I'm like, oh, someone understands me. So, yeah, and I experienced that. And then to top it off, long-distance relationship. I was in a long-distance relationship. And he broke up with me the week before school ended. So I was already going through it really bad, get broken up with. And it was literally like, But in that, like, it was one of the terriblest pains I have ever experienced, by the way. Like, you hear about that broken heart syndrome that people have actually passed away from. Like, it's a real thing. When I got broken up with, my heart felt like someone was grabbing my heart and squishing it, and I like it hurt and I couldn't breathe.
You physically felt it.
I physically felt it. I had never felt that before. Yelling at the top of my lungs, literally frozen, would occasionally just sit there, go numb, and would just blank.
Yeah.
My friends were all there with me. I'm really thankful for them because they definitely saw me through the worst. And the hardest part of that was that same week I had my senior sermon. So only 6 people in the whole class gets chosen to do a senior sermon. And I was chosen to do it. And lucky me, like, it had to be that same week.
Yeah.
So I was like, Lord, what do I do? I'm so heartbroken right now. How am I supposed to preach in front of my whole school when I literally can't even get off this couch? Like,
yeah.
And I was just going through it, sitting there. And that night, see, this is what another tipping point. That night, people were calling me, my family, my friends, like if he died, like showing their support for me and like lifting me up in prayer, lifting me up, and because it was a long relationship, it was like 4 years. So lifting me up, you know, sending their love, sending their prayers, like all the things. And then my dad calls me and he's like, Nana, they call me Nana. I want to tell you something. And he's like, Rafael had a word for you from God. Rafael is someone who is not super firm in the word. Like, he doesn't really even understand the word when he reads it because he's new, fresh Christian. And the Lord gives him words. And literally he'll see verses just in the air, just pop up. And he will, like, open it. Abner, I don't know what this means. Like, I don't even know what this says. And then my dad explains it. So he said that he was asleep. And he gets woken up by the Lord, like really sudden. And then that the Lord tells him, this is for one of Abner's family members. Tell her that my love never fails. It embraces. And then he gave him a verse, which it's in my phone, but it's in Proverbs. And it basically talks about how our plans seem good in our ways, but the Lord weighs our plans. And it said to surrender everything to him, and he'll make my path straight. So that completely just, like, I could have easily fallen into a worse pit, a harder depression, harder anxiety. But the thought of, like, I just thought of it, like, the God of the universe, the God who created me, who created everything around me, didn't see my heartbreak as, oh, she's just going through a heartbreak. Like, it literally, when the word says he is near to the brokenhearted, like,
he really is.
He really is. And I was in shock that God cared to be there for me in that time. And that completely just flipped everything around for me. It was like, God, like, thank you for actually being here. And I felt so, like, I physically could feel just like someone was hugging me. Yeah. And so that changed it all for me. And I just was like, God, through this, I'm going to worship you and I'm going to praise you. In fact, he even told me in one of the services, once I graduated, I came back and I was leading worship at church, and I started crying because obviously it's still pain. Like, it takes a while to heal. I started crying while I was leading worship, and the Lord just told me, just worship me and I'll heal you. And that's when I wrote Mi Porción. That's how that song emerged from all that. And yeah, and after that, just, I was like, God, it's all about you right now. I don't want any men in my life right now. I just want to surrender everything to you after college, after everything. I want to help my parents at church. I want to help with worship. I want to help with everything that I can. Continue doing music. And then I found my hubby over there. He arrived at our church. And, you know, without even knowing, he was over there in Dallas at the same time I was. He knew my therapist. She probably literally talked about being in front of him. Like, without knowing, we were just crossing paths, but never truly meeting each other until we were over here in God's timing. Like, God's timing is literally perfect, especially in our story. Like, everything is so aligned. Consistent. And it just, like, even up to, like, our baby, like, everything is so, and God is good. Like, again, literally going back to that word that he told me, like, commit your ways to me and I will set your path straight. It's literally what he did. He just boom, boom, boom after that. And so, yeah, now I've released some music. Just released another song recently. But yeah, just surrendering it all to God, literally in everything that I do.
So it's an interesting thing because I think a lot about that, where one of the things that you said is how the Bible talks about we have to find a way to deny ourselves to choose him. Yeah. And I think that's very important because I think, especially now in modern times, what we're seeing a lot is people are just trying too hard to balance the world and God. And I think that's where a lot of people aren't successful in their relationships with Christ, because at the end of the day, like, we can't expect ourselves to be able to handle the weight of both of these things. Yeah. And so I really do feel like, obviously I'm saying that it's obviously easier said than done, because even me, similar to you, like, I've grown up in church. My parents have been, I think when my dad officially became a pastor for the first time, because he started and then he stopped for like 2 years and then started again. I think with the second time he started is when I was born, the year that I was born. Oh, okay. So literally my
right
whole
life.
Yeah, literally my whole life. I've been in church. I've been a pastor's kid. And even then, I still find myself in the place where kind of battling, like, is this something that God has given me, or is this just something that I'm giving myself, right? Are these aspirations coming from something else that they shouldn't be coming from, or from God? And I think, obviously, like, us as believers, it's important that we make sure that we actually are connected and have that spiritual connection with Christ, because I really do feel like that's the only way where we can decipher the two things. Because we can easily get confused. Obviously, the devil knows our temptations. He knows what the things that we're dealing with. So obviously, he's going to use that to veer us off the path we're in. And for me, I've dealt with a lot of the same things. It's very like you said, like, being introverted, that creative side is very, like, it tends to lead a lot. Yeah. That's very much like where our passion lies in, is I want to create something, I want to make something. So for me, I've dealt with that, even with the podcast, even with thinking about this in the sense of, like, is this just something that, like, am I going crazy thinking that I want to do this? Or is this, that. Or is this actually something that is worth pursuing, you know? So now I kind of want to get into the depression thing you were talking about. Yeah. Do you think that the part of your life where you were dealing with that, do you think that comes from a disconnect from God?
I believe it can, definitely. The high school depression was honestly disconnect. I completely disconnected myself from God. So absolutely. Like, it definitely can come from a disconnect with God, because I wanted nothing with him. And your soul craves that, because you were created to worship. You were created to love him. And I was being, I weaned myself off of him, basically. Like a mom weans off a baby from, nursing. And I wanted it. Or my soul wanted it, but me mentally, I was like, no, And so definitely, absolutely, I fall into depression because of that. In college, I was definitely trying to pursue the Lord and trying to stay connected. I believe there can be spiritual attacks, and I think I could have been going through a spiritual attack, something, but definitely sought out help and sought out, good godly relationships, therapist, godly therapist. So it can go both ways, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, like I personally, I've never dealt, I don't think at least I've ever dealt with something, like I would never say that I've ever had anxiety or had depression, but I do think that I mean, because obviously, like, I think people throw that around a lot. Like, it's like, I get scared.
Absolutely.
Oh, I have anxiety now. Or, like, my dog, whatever. Like, people kind of just want to use those words lightly. But I feel like for me, it's very, I don't know what it is that because like you said, we've all had the phases. We've all had those moments.
The rebellious phase.
We've had the disconnect, and we've had, obviously, like, my relationship with Christ is not perfect. So I have the ups and downs, but I think for me, what helped me a lot, at least, was at a young age, I saw people acting a way that rubbed me the wrong way. So I think that for me, it was kind of like I was never able to fully cross that line of, like, the rebellious side that I could really be hitting, or fully, like, a full 360, like, saying I want nothing to do with you, God. Because there was moments where I've been obviously frustrated, and I felt, well, God, I don't want to do this, like, or I don't, like, I feel burnt out. This is not something I want to keep pursuing. Or
another thing about introverts, we get burnt out.
Yes. I feel that way. And it's funny because with my brother, like, I feel like that's where me and him, especially when it comes to music, that's where me and him are very different, because he could do it and do it and do it. And me, I can't.
Me
I play the drums, and I'll play conferences for a few months, and then I want nothing to do with drums. Yeah. That's just how I am. And then another layer to that is I started really young. I started drumming at a really young age. So I kind of gravitated towards things that I wouldn't be playing in church. It was Christian music. Like, I always listen to Christian music. I played Christian music. But it was like things like rock or hip hop, things like that you weren't playing in church. So that was another thing for me that was kind of hard. And I guess to tie that back into what I was saying before, like, God, like, is me drumming in my church, like, really it? And I think that it was hard for me to really focus on it consistently, focus on the drum specifically, because I did feel like there was something bigger that I had. And I felt like, I guess that wasn't really it. And I actually, that leads me to a question that I have for you. So obviously you make music. That's not a common thing, especially in Eagle Pass. And you obviously are into, you like social media, you post, and that's been a thing that you've been doing for a while now. Is that something that you felt like at a young age? Did you always feel like you were gonna do something in that way, or create in that way?
That's a good question. So maybe not in that way, but I always had this yearn, and I'm pretty sure my friend remembers this moment. There was this, like, yearn to sing. Like, I not just sing, but, like, sing. That makes sense. Like, I remember sitting, my friend slept over, and we were listening to Christian music, and I started singing, and I started, like, welling up. She's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I just feel like I need to sing." Like, my friend Nia, by the way. And she's like, "Well, sing." I was like, "No, you're not getting it." I was like, "I feel like I need to sing." Like, like, sing, and she's like, "Well, like, what are you going to do about it?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I don't know what I'm going to do about it.
How old were you again?
I think I was around in, like, junior high or so. Okay. I'm telling you, like, around that time where I kind of, like, my yearn for it started emerging. That's kind of when I knew I wanted to actually, publicly sing. Like, it wasn't just something that I was going to be doing in my shower or do in my bedroom.
So you hadn't started singing in church yet?
No, not in junior high, not yet.
Okay.
Until high school.
Okay.
And I always had this yearn to create like you. And I knew that it wasn't probably going to be something that I would just see with my own eyes. That it was going to be, more public. Yeah. It was always within me, but I never wanted to mention it because it just sounds really proud, like, to talk about it. And you understand.
I get it, trust me.
Yeah, but you feel it within you, and it's like this, like you need to, like,
to
do
get
it.
Out.
Yeah, and that, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I it's funny. I think for me, it was, because I thought where I found myself is I couldn't find something specific that I knew I really wanted to do. Because like I said, like, I started drumming really young, and I think and there's nothing wrong with it, obviously, but I think for most people, you find that thing, and it was very easy for me to pick up. I was really young. I picked it up really quick.
Yeah.
But, like, obviously playing over time, again, it wasn't, I felt like there was just more. Like, it wasn't like, okay, like, I'm just going to be a drummer and that's it. Mm-hmm. That's just not where I felt my life was going to go. And so I actually found out the first time that I kind of, I guess, got, some type of confirmation was at a youth camp. I was 12 years old. And to make a long story short, I was basically told that I was going to speak to nations, preach to nations. But at that time, obviously, like, I'm still a kid. So hearing that, like, my mind was going to so many different places. And then again, I didn't.
Am I going to go to the nations?
Yeah. And so for me, it was always kind of that. I am ready to pursue. I'm ready to work. I'm ready to pray. I'm ready to fast. I'm ready to read my Bible. I am actually ready to put in the work, but my problem was, what am I putting in the work for? Mm-hmm. What is that thing that I'm actually looking at as the goal, right? Yeah. And so even then, still, same thing all the way up through high school, I just knew that I wasn't going to end up with a normal 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. I was always very... introverted. I always was very separate from my family. When we had a family, like when we were celebrating holidays, I was kind of on my own.
Yeah.
In school, I've resonated with very few people, and even then there was always like a separation there. So I always knew that for me there was something just different there. Still, even then, still now, I'm still not too sure. This is the closest thing I've found to it, that I'm like, okay, this is something that I'm genuinely passionate about and want to pursue. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things, again, that I think where I can resonate a lot with what you were saying is, that there is something bigger, and that it's not, I guess, just for you, right? Yeah. And that there is something bigger at play. And for me, that's kind of helped me understand that there is something bigger at play here. Yeah. It's reaffirmed my faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's shown me that that God really does have a plan for people's lives. Whether we want to follow that or not, there is a plan there.
Yeah.
Right? And so now for you, like, when did you kind of start pursuing, like, the influencing thing, posting on YouTube and Instagram? For you, when did that, and where did that come from too?
Well, that was kind of an accident. I didn't expect to, like, blow up like I did. I've always kind of been like a poster, if that makes sense. Like, I would always post on Instagram. I would always post on Facebook, I guess, when Facebook was a thing. I guess it's not anymore. But TikTok became a thing, and I joined TikTok in 2020 like everybody else during quarantine time. And I would just post for the fun of it, like, not to get anywhere. That wasn't my goal, not TikTok. But then one day it occurred to me, like, hey, I'm a PK. I do a lot. Maybe I should show the world, like, what I do, right? So I just one day I just decided on a Sunday morning to post or to record like my routine of what I do, turning everything on, like, you know, being a worship leader, all the things, you know, you guys know. PKs, like you'd kind of do everything. You're the first one there, last one out, like leave. For real. So I did that and I recorded it, and man, like I did not expect whatsoever to blow up like that. That wasn't even my thought. But it also came with its negative side, and that some of the comments were brutal, like some people weren't calling me Christian. Why are you going like that to church? Like, why didn't you pray before going into the church? Like, why are you eating at the church? All the things, right? I got attacked. Like, it was crazy. And I'm like, whoa. It started like, I would literally look at just the icon of TikTok and I would start shaking because it was like, just thinking about opening it and all those comments. Like, I didn't expect it. Like, again, like I had no idea the video was going to even get somewhere, right? And so I was so shocked. Obviously, like, oh my gosh, it's exciting, but also terrifying. Like, I don't know if I want this, because so many people are so mean, even in the Christian world. Like, people can be really, in fact, even more so than like
more judgmental.
Yeah. And it was like, oh my gosh. And so my brother literally ended up having to just open the icon to just like remove the comments, and so that I could just, because it would literally make me shake. Like, it was like, and then like little by little I just continued posting, and that's kind of how I just gained momentum, I guess.
So it started in TikTok. That's when it started.
It started in TikTok, and then I hadn't posted on Instagram like any of those types of videos. Until probably like, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? No, it was 3 years ago, because that's around the time I met him. 3 years ago is when I started posting those videos on Instagram, and then it kind of blew up there too. Same thing though, just not as brutal as TikTok, but they're still brutal.
I hear TikTok's crazy, definitely.
Yeah, TikTok can be bad. But like you said, you get burnt out. Like, even in that, I get burnt out. Like, if you check, I haven't really been posting, but because I go in through these roller coaster where sometimes I'm like, oh yes, I want to keep posting and just post every single day. And then sometimes I go like weeks without posting because I get into a burnt out phase, and I'm like, I don't feel like doing that right now. Yeah. And I respect how I feel. Like, I'm not going to do it just so I can get views and likes. Like, that's not why. Like, if I don't want to post, I'm not going to post, you know? Yeah. So, and people are like, why haven't you been posting? Well, because I don't want to. Yeah. You know, it's like my social media. So
exactly.
But yeah, that's kind of how it all started.
So, okay, so then it was never a thing of like you never saw like, I want to be like an influencer. You were just doing it like.
So I did want to pursue like YouTube. That's actually, okay, that's where it started. I forgot about that. Before I got on TikTok, it was YouTube, but my goal was to do just covers and just grow from my Christian music. That's what my goal was. It wasn't through TikTok. So I was doing covers for about 2 years, I think, before TikTok, and literally right out of college, I think I started doing covers, and consistent too. I did quite a few. I even started doing like Get Ready With Me's, Q&A, what else did I do? You know, and one of the fun challenges or whatever, vlogs. I did vlogs as well, but that kind of was like my thing in YouTube. And then I got on TikTok, stopped YouTube. My sister literally today, which is crazy that we're talking about this, she called me a quitter today, but because she's like, you start with, you want to do it all, like you want to do all these things, and you just do one, and then you're like, okay, I'm done with that, like going to the next thing. It's just,
that's exactly how I am.
Yeah. You see, I told her, I was like, it's because I want to try everything. Like, if I feel like I can do it, I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
You know, and so
I like where it's funny because for me it was, I first started same thing with music. I wanted to just be like, I wanted to be in the music world and drumming. So that's why I started posting really young. I think my first video I ever posted, I was in middle school, I think. So I think I must have been 15. And it was the same thing. It was a cover.
Yeah.
And it started there, and then it kind of turned into like you said, I realized that I kind of just wanted to do something. Like I was like, I'm kind of done with this.
You get bored of it. Yeah.
And I still do post, and I still plan on posting more, obviously drum content, things like that. But I kind of just like 1 month I really am passionate about this, and then next month I'm passionate about this.
Yeah.
It's that's just how I am. But I actually do think though that where I am a little different from what you said is when I truly am passionate about something, I don't think I get burnt out from that thing.
You stick to it. Yeah.
I don't know why. That's just how, like, and that's how kind of what I told you about earlier. Like when it came to like how I always knew I wasn't gonna kind of have a what you would call a normal life, because I have no dedication to things that I'm not passionate about.
Yeah.
I don't. That's just how I am. I've never been able to stick to something that I hated or did not like doing. I just don't have the I guess will strength for that. But when it comes to things that I end up enjoying, like that is on my mind 24/7. I'll watch videos about the thing. I want to do the thing always. Like that's I completely get consumed in that.
Yeah.
So now for you then you start seeing that obviously the growth really takes off in TikTok.
Yeah.
What were some of the changes that you weren't expecting that came in your life when you started to see that type of growth?
I'd say changes in my life. I wouldn't say there were much changes. I think people around me probably were like wanting to take advantage of me, like advantage of.
So the way people treated you was different.
There were people who were like reaching out to me that I've known all my life that had never reached out to me, and then they see my social media. It's like, hey, what's up?
What's up,
it's like. Like they have never spoken to me before, and now they're talking to me. Even people from like high school, like people that probably wouldn't even care to talk to me in high school, even probably bullied me in like elementary, and then like now they're like, hey, what's up? It's like, hello. Who are you? Like, why are you reaching out to me? I think that would be the only thing that kind of like shifted was the way people reacted. Yeah.
And so then now where obviously you find yourself now in the place that you're at with the social media and following things like that, has that kind of changed where you want your future to be? Like, was there a goal that you had that now it's kind of like, maybe I should, maybe pursue this more? Or
honestly, no. I honestly still would like to pursue music. I think that's like the one thing that I am, like you said, passionate about, that I probably would never leave is music and, singing, worshiping. That's like my passion. I mean, I literally studied it. Like that is my ultimate, like,
that's the one
that's what I was created to do. And that's what God called me to do, and I know that. And so I'm going to stick to that. I mean, social media can, for all we know, like disappear in our life, and what will remain is our worship to the Lord. So regardless of what if I lose all my followers or which by the way, my Instagram got hacked, my first Instagram, and I had like a few followers there. I had a whole breakdown when that happened. I couldn't get it back. And so it took a while to regain my followers in the second Instagram. And so, like I said, things can come and go. So it's good to not be like, oh, but I have this many followers. Like they're human beings just like we are. And so they can easily, God can be like, well, I gave this to you. I can easily just, to humble you if you ever get too prideful. Need it. Yeah, right. If you ever get too prideful, it's because at the end of the day, it's not for yourself. Like, I do it because I share the word, I share worship songs, I also like share my routines or whatever, but it's at the end of the day, I want to be able to give the glory to God, whether it's through Instagram or TikTok or whatever it might be. Yeah, like in church.
Interesting.
So,
yeah. So then you feel like for you, what kind of keeps you leveled really is that you understand that what the main thing in your life is that worship.
Yeah.
That's what keeps you leveled. That's
my core.
interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Is that ever a thing that you've ever like dealt with? Have you ever found yourself kind of, I guess, acting different in a certain moment, or like, you know what I mean? Like, has
Like
that
the way
ever-
that it
yeah.
affected me,
Yeah.
my social media. Maybe there was a moment where like, ooh, look at me, I have all these followers. Probably at the beginning, because it was something that was like I had never experienced before. Like,
Nor were you expecting.
yeah, nor was I expecting. So probably, but one thing that I have always told the Lord, that like no matter where you take me, Lord, keep me humbled. And I always say, like, one of the ways that I'm sure he humbles me, or that I stay humble, is that I always, no matter what I do, anything that I'm going to do publicly, I freak out, I get nervous. Like, that is my
Yeah.
you're being humbled right now.
really
Like,
brings you
where
down
I'm
to
freaking,
earth.
yeah. Like, I will always get nervous to lead worship. Like, you can ask my husband, once that countdown goes on at church, I'm sitting there and I'm like this.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. Because it's just like, I understand that this is something that he's gifted me, and it's not mine to hold, and it's not mine to like, oh, I'm so good at this, like, you guys don't have, no, like, this is a gift, and you guys can all take from it, and a talent that you guys can all get edified by.
Yeah.
But I get nervous. Yeah, I always say that. You can ask anyone. I always say, I'm humbled with my nerves.
Yeah. So with the
every single time.
I don't think for me it's nervous when it comes to the drumming, but I only give credit to because I started so young. I think that's why I don't really.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the last time I was nervous to play something. It's been a while, and then on top of that, since I did start really young, I think my first time playing in front of a crowd of a few hundred people, I think it was before middle school.
That's
so crazy. I did start very young. I did.
Mm-hmm.
But so then I like to ask this question a lot for musicians. Where do you find a balance of like getting better at what you do, obviously singing, and at the same time, like, because obviously, like, there can be times where, like, you have your set list, you practice, you want the music to be exactly this way, and then during service, God may move a different way.
Yeah.
How can you find that balance of, like, how can you navigate through that in the sense that you kind of wanted to stay, like, okay, this is kind of the song that we had, and then now God's kind of like, oh, well, maybe the Spirit's going here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand all well that the Holy Spirit can move however he wants to move, that we can have our own plan, again, like how God told me, we can have our own plan, and it's good to have plan and be excellent in what we do. That's order, and God is a God of order, but also to allow the Holy Spirit to move. And I try to let him do that. Like, I'm not going, who am I to keep everyone from worshiping the way that the Lord wants them to worship, you know? And it's just as a worship leader, you just kind of have to lead in on that and be keen to when the Holy Spirit wants to move in that way. And so sometimes, like, so our band is like freshly started. We used to just do multi-tracks. We didn't have musicians for a long time. Literally, our band just started probably around October or so.
Oh, okay. So not even a year.
New, like, not even a year. And I was so excited, like, because I felt like God was doing something, like leveling up our, how do I describe that? I don't want to make it sound like, oh my gosh. Just like there was, like, he was starting something new within the atmosphere at our church.
Oh, okay.
Because we were so limited to just multi-tracks and then the pads and trying to minister with just the pads, like, that's hard. But it can be done, obviously, because again, the Holy Spirit, if you let him move, he can do anything, right? But but it was hard specifically for me because I grew up in a church atmosphere where, I mean, you could flow and the musicians could play whatever. Like, they were like basically professional musicians. So it was easy to flow. Obviously, I wasn't really worship leading at that time, but I grew up with that experience. So that was definitely like a humbling experience, as you can kind of think of, like just multi-tracks, basically pistas, and trying to flow in that. And allow the Holy Spirit to move. And so when the musicians started, it's still like we're still trying to progress and advance in that. And so two of our musicians, they're and I was like, you guys play instruments perfect, we're gonna start our band. But we all kind of I think we're all still needing to work together to move together.
That's the thing that I think about a lot, because like I've heard people talk about like someone's skill shouldn't matter if it's ultimately like for the kingdom of God and for. But the thing is, at least the way I see it, is like, obviously every church is in a different state, right? If a church is barely starting, you can't be like, we need to wait for professionals to come in. Obviously not. I understand that totally. If it's out of necessity, that's totally fine. But at the same time, to add on to what you were saying, someone like their level of skill when it comes to music really can bring a limit, whether we want to admit that or not. It can. And so I think that's not to belittle musicians that are barely starting off, but I think it's the opposite of that. I think that as musicians, we need to start seeing our ministry and start seeing it as something extremely seriously. Yeah. Because it is. And I think that if you are pursuing, obviously you want to be a musician or singer or whatever it is in church, like, it is very important that you really work on that craft. Yeah. It's super, super important, because again, you don't want the band to be limited because you couldn't like play this or you couldn't sing this. Does that make sense? I'm not expecting every church to have the best musicians in the world. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that the same way that you would expect a preacher to prepare a week in advance the message and for him to be constantly praying, for him to constantly be in the word, the same way you'd expect the preacher to be that way, you need to expect a musician to be the same exact way. Like, be prepared. Yeah, practice. Exactly. That, yes. Like, learn your own role, because at the same, again, you really can limit where God is trying to take something because you didn't prepare. Whether you think that's how it should be or not, that's the reality of what happens in a church service. Like, if we're in the middle of worship and then I start playing a beat that's totally off, like, people are going to open their eyes and be like, whoa,
distracted.
Whoa, like, what's happening here? Like, rather than, that's why I think a lot of people are so firm on, like, we need to make sure our services are ran smoothly, because we want to make sure that the people don't really have to think about this, or we don't really have to think like, oh, that sister's saying a little off key, or you know what I mean? Obviously it's going to happen. We're not perfect. Yeah. But
nor do we plan on being perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's obviously not what I think we should expect of ourselves, but we absolutely should be trying our best to be the most prepared. Yes. Because you don't know what's going to happen in the moment. Like, you just don't know. God can take us to praise. God can take us to worship. It just varies. Now, so do you think that if, let's say, like, you weren't even in church, like how you said you kind of started singing in middle school, like, before that, was singing even like a thing?
Yeah, well, I've always been singing, like, but singing publicly was never really a plan, like, before that. I think I would be the one belting in my house when everybody would leave, like, taking those videos and seeing if I actually sounded good. That was me. Like, always singing, literally. Like I said, they would call me Nani Montera. So singing was always a thing, but not publicly,
Oh, okay, interesting. So did you know that you always wanted to do that? Like, because you enjoyed it,
Yeah.
but like you said, you kind of, when you found out in middle school, you're like, I really want to like sing now. Like this is something I really want to do. Before that, that not even like a...
Probably not when I was a little kid. I think more so in elementary, probably like fourth to sixth grade is when I was like, I want to be a singer. You know, like that was probably when I was like, I want to do that. Yeah.
So, and then when it came to your growth in that, did you kind of have to find your own way through it, or did you have like was there a singer that you looked up to, or was it like you completely figured out the path you need to take on your own? I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, was there did you have, I guess, a guide to look at?
I would say my parents were a good guide, honestly, because my parents were both. My dad was the worship leader in the church that we used to attend.
Okay.
And my mom was always singing. My mom actually was in choir in like high school, so she was always singing too. She sings like operatic, classic sounding, and I kind of like always looked up to them. But like artist wise, I think the one I can think of the most, mainly not as a kid, but more so in high school, was Marcos Witt. Marcos Witt was like, because I thought of him as like I still do. I think of him as like the pioneer of Christian music. Like he is the one,
especially Spanish.
Yeah, he's the one that paved the way for literally all Christian artists in Spanish. Like he was the one that started all the different types of genres, and like you know, and he got beat up for it. Like basically people would call him stuff for trying to do like a reggaeton song or like the rap song with Funky or whatever. So like he pioneered the way.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's funny, like I'm very grateful that I didn't grow up in that. Like obviously now it's way more accepted. Like there's obviously very successful hip hop, rock, all the different genres of music. Yeah. I'm so grateful that I actually got to grow up where that was more embraced.
Yes.
Because again, like for me, like I don't know if it's because of what my dad was showing us and like growing up, like the music that we were surrounded, because we really weren't surrounded by, like every time we all got in the car, my dad wasn't playing like praise and worship. My dad was playing rap. My dad was
different
playing rock.
Types of genres.
He was just into that. But the funny thing is, he did grow up in that time where it was kind of frowned upon.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, he used to tell me about like when DC Talk was coming up and becoming a thing, they were like very like hated, and like people in church would be like, you can't listen to them, like that's not right, because obviously they had their rap rock thing going on. And he like would tell me, like I remember like literally going to the store, buying their DVDs, listening to them in my car, like when he barely converted. So that's just kind of what I was raised with. So for me it was very normal. Like it wasn't like it wasn't a thing to think like, oh, like Christians can't listen to, if it's rock it's not of God.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it just wasn't a
either.
thing. Really, like it wasn't. So what I'm also just interested in is, obviously you spoke about Marcos Witt. Has your taste in music evolved a lot as you grown singing wise, or have you found yourself kind of staying consistent in what you like to listen to?
I think I've been pretty consistent with what I'm listening to since as a kid. Like I've always been really interested in like ballads. Like little Nani has always liked like heartbreak songs. Ballads have always been like, I don't know, I like it when it pulls my heartstrings, whether it be like secular music or Christian music. I like ballads, like slow,
interesting
songs,
like emotional,
yes.
So what are some artists that you always liked
back then, as a kid? Let's see, Christian wise,
either.
I would listen to Francesca Battistelli a lot, and I would listen to her, what's it called, My Paper Heart album, and some of those songs were very like heartfelt and deep songs. Let's see, who else would I listen to? Celine Dion. That was like the artist that we would listen to in my household. Who else would I listen to? There was someone else. a Christian artist. I can't really remember, but like
Girl
they
or
were
boy?
girl
What
voices.
type of music was it?
Christian, like slow. But see, now I'm not that interested in like girl voices. I'm more interested in like men voices. I don't know.
Really?
I guess that preference changed. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
You don't know why that is?
I think it's because I listen to voices a lot. Like you can ask my husband. I'm always comparing people's voices to things. Like that person's voice sounds like fluttery. That person's voice sounds like a harmonica. That person's voice sounds like a saxophone. Yeah. I don't know why. I guess that's how my brain works. And I just prefer like the baritone deep voices over like the fluttery voices, harmonica voices. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Can you like picture it in your head?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
So then, because I don't really think it's that common for people to actually go to college and pursue, specifically in worship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are some things that you think really separate you that you picked up from college when it comes to that?
When it comes to worship?
Yeah.
Definitely they call it philosophy of worship. So before college, I just thought worship was what we would do on Sunday, what I would do in my closed door singing wise. But it's not just that. It's my philosophy of worship, I can say, is the response to what God has done, is doing, and will do. That we're responding to that. So whether that be music, whether that be in community, whether that be, sharing the gospel, all of that is worship. And doing the communion when you're remembering Jesus, that's worship, because it's a response to what he did. So responding to what the Lord said. That's changed my philosophy of it. Yeah.
And do you, so obviously those things that you learn in college that gives you kind of, I guess, a different perspective on it. Have you found yourself like, has that made it harder to work with people?
Yeah. Even my dad. Honestly, yeah, because people, obviously, they didn't go through the 4 years of theology, or not theology, but the worship theology that I underwent, right? So they're going to think a little differently to maybe how I used to think, He kind of, like my dad, like agrees that it's everything, right? Like most people do, that like worship is a way of living, right? But I feel like there's still that mentality of like, when you think of worship is starting, it's like the music. Like it's that mentality.
Okay.
And to me it makes...
Like we only connect it to the music.
Yes. Yeah. It's that mentality of like, but it's not just that. Literally, the worship is what we're doing right now. Like speaking of the Lord and what he's done in our lives. Like that's worship.
Interesting.
So
yeah.
People wouldn't think like what we're doing right now is worship.
Yeah, I get that. Like, I think that's also another thing where it's a very modern way to look at it. Because I think we're used to, like, people are used to kind of like the show, right? Like now more than ever, we have like the crazy lights, we have the smoke machines, we have, all those different, the crazy flashy outfits and stuff like that, where I do think that has a big effect on the way people see it. Because again, like, it is very true that worship really is not only like when you're in church, and even more important, I think that worship is actually more significant when you're outside of church. Exactly. I think that's when it matters more. Yeah. Because I mean, it's very, very easy for me to like come to church and wear my suit and say amen, say all the right things. I could look and act like the Christian, but because I'm not getting tested here. Like here's not really my test, right? It's everyone's looking like the Christian, so I'm really just gonna fit in here.
It's easy.
Exactly. But obviously when you're out there, that's just not the case. Like when you're out in school or work, that really is where God is going to see where your intentions are at, and that's where he's gonna see, okay, is this person someone that I can actually trust and rely on with the ministry, or is this person kind of just there just because it's the right thing to do? And again, like, obviously you understand as a pastor's kid, like, that is something that is very hard for us to fall into.
Yeah.
Because I like using this analogy a lot. I repeat this all the time. But like, PKs are literally living like in a glass house. Like, everyone's looking at us. This is what we're supposed to look like. This is what we're supposed to say, act. Yeah, always. And it's a 24/7 thing. It's not like, because even like, it's funny how people will talk about me doing this and, oh my gosh, like, Jacob, how could you do this, do that? And most of the time, like, their kids might even be doing crazier things. And like, it shows where someone's focus is at. Like, is their focus like, we need to make sure that the pastor's kid look this way? Or are
like
we
on man?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like almost like if I'm the, like, if it's a movie and I'm one of the actors, like, the actor needs to be doing this. And if they're not doing this, everything is wrong. The church is falling apart.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like
you're a reflection of what the church is doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, just my testimony alone is supposed to tell the whole story of the church. And I think that obviously that's a big issue. Now, speaking on that, is that something that you think you've dealt with?
Oh, absolutely.
And how do you deal with that?
Honestly, fortunately, the church that my parents have started was post Rebel Nani. So the church didn't experience or didn't see me in that phase. I was there. I was like that in my previous church. So people over there might have seen me like that. But now I do feel like I'm, under a magnifying glass. Like, everything that I do, people are going to be looking at it like, oh, like, the PK didn't say hi to me. Like, Nani didn't come and say hi to me. And it's like any little thing. And, like, we were talking about the other day with my cuñada, like, I'm just trying to stay away, at the end. Like, I don't want people to be talking to me and blah, blah, blah. If I don't go and say hi to people can get offended, because that's just how they are. Like, she's the pastor's kid. She has to come and say hi to me. And it's like, oh, but sometimes I'm overwhelmed. Sometimes I'm out-peopled, but like, like, I'm human, I'm not just a pastor's kid. But yeah, like, totally, it's a PK thing. Yeah. Being in that glass box.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, for sure. So what are some things that for you, like what helps you kind of deal with that? Because I don't think it's kind of sad to say, I don't really think that's going to ever go away with obviously, like, that people are always going to be watching. People are what for you, what is a good way for, I guess, any PK listening to, what is a way that they can see or think about that can help them navigate in their within their role through that, dealing with those, I guess, that pressure?
Yeah, I think when people get judgmental, because they do, and they will, it's not going to be a one-time thing. To understand that they don't have any point of reference other than us, and that's hard. Obviously, it's even more baggage on us, right? But to try to get in their shoes and be like, this is why they think the way that they're thinking, and have some grace and compassion, but also set your boundaries. Like, don't let that become something that you that overwhelms you and becomes like your way of living, and then you're gonna become a people pleaser, and then that's all you're gonna want to be doing, right? Like, there should be a balance. Like, respect and understand how they feel, but also set your boundaries.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. And another thing that I think has been a big turning point for me, at least, was like, it's going to be very hard to deal with that pressure at first because we didn't choose that. Yeah. But God did. Yeah. God chose for us to be there. Like, God is the reason why I'm the PK, why you're the PK, obviously, right? And I think that when we're really able, the moment where you're able to kind of deal with that pressure, I guess, is really the moment where you realize, like, it is God's will for you to be in that place. And for me, what that's done in my life is it's shown me that having that pressure, I guess, being the example, really, really is a privilege. Yeah. It is something that, like, God wanted us to be the ones that people are going to look at to be an example. And that is an honor. Like, at the end of the day, that is a huge honor. And I do think that knowing that, obviously it's our job to honor that, and not only honor that, but really, I guess, set our attention on, really focus on, like, okay, so then how can I be the best example? Like, use it, I guess, use the pressure as motivation in a way.
Like,
right?
not only live as though, like, live up to their standard, but also do it because it benefits you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, to grow your faith, to, grow your relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
And it not be just an act.
Exactly.
But be a true way of living, yeah.
Like, it's another reason to focus on growth in your relationship with Christ, obviously. Now, I want to get into our last section, my favorite section. I love this. So obviously, I asked the audience on our Instagram account. I kind of gave them a prompt describing you, and I asked them, so what are some questions that y'all would, if you were the one speaking to her, what are some things that you would ask her if you were in my seat? So I'm gonna get into the first one. A simple one, 3 words. Any singing tips?
Singing tips, absolutely.
Drop the gems.
So your belly is your balloon. You got to fill your balloon. And then, I can't really do it right now because I'm pregnant. So you don't really see my belly go down.
A little too full.
Yeah,
right
it's a little too full. But fill your balloon. That's I used to give a little bit of voice lessons. So you fill your balloon and have the back of your mouth like a C instead of closed. So open your mouth up in the back. Your soft palate is what we call it. So open up your soft palate and release your balloon. Okay. Yeah.
I want to add on to that question a little bit. Any singing tips specifically in a church setting?
In a church setting, yeah. I think find the right key for yourself. Don't try to sing. Yeah, don't try to sing like the original song just to be like, I can do it. Like, if you can't sing the key, it is okay to change the key. Like, no one's going to make fun of you for it. And in fact, it'll be easier on the congregation to sing as well. Because if you can't sing, imagine them. Like,
yeah.
So lower the key. Men as well. Sometimes men get prideful and are like, I'm not going to lower the key. Lower the key. Like,
that's good. Yeah, that's really good.
I would say that's pretty much, the only tip. Again, use those good vocal techniques for also leading worship. Those are also important, because if you strain your voice, you're going to end up with no voice by the end of the set list.
Yeah, so, and then if God wants to keep going,
you can't. Exactly. So technique is important in even in a worship setting.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, next question. Did you ever have any fear when it came to leading? If so, how did you overcome it?
I have fear most of the time. It's not something that, I overcome it every single time that I lead. It's a continual thing. Again, like I said, it's like the way that I'm staying humble is because I have nerves, and it's just like the fear of failing, I think, that tries to eat me up inside. Is like, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I crack? What if we forget the words, and then everyone just stays there, like, all these things that could happen, like the what ifs, fears. But you, at the end of the day, it's not for yourself. So I surrender them to the Lord, and I say, hey, this is what he called me for. So I'm going to do it anyway. Even with the fears, Lord, you're going to be glorified. Like, I'm going to glorify you regardless. If everything fails, it's for your glory. Like, I'm going to try my best. And if it fails, I'm sorry, but I'm going to praise you, Yeah.
It's like a good cushion to fall on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I want to add a little bit to that one too. So then, do you think that that's gonna be most people? Do you think that most people are gonna always have that fear, like, throughout?
Well, if you were like a nervous person like me, probably, sometimes people like yourself, like you've done it most of the time, like you kind of lose the fear. So I feel most people will have the fear of failing, fear of like forgetting the song, all those things. Yeah, so just stick to that, like giving glory to God.
Yeah, and that's a great piece of advice.
And
stick to it.
Yeah, because and everyone says that, like, a Dios no le importa si te cantas desafinado. Like, yes, and it's good to be,
also
practicing.
try to sing on key.
Also try, yes.
Exactly. Last question. If you had to give a young singer in church, all singing related. If you had to give a young singer in church only one piece of advice, what would it be?
it's not about yourself. It's about the Lord.
Mm.
So a lot of the girls that see me are like, Nani. We call it nanitis. Like they like run to me, and it makes me feel like they look up to me, right? But it's like, it's not about me. Like I wish they could understand, like, the things that I'm doing is not for myself. It's for the Lord. So if they want to pursue that and want to pursue singing, like, don't do it so that people are like, Nani, or whatever their name is.
Like, to impress people.
Exactly. To do it to glorify the Lord. And at the end of the day, if that happens, we'll let it happen, right? Like, the Bible does say, like, give honor to those who deserve honor, right? Yeah. But don't seek it, because that is where that's where you want glory, and we weren't created to get glory. And so sometimes, and you see it a lot in celebrities, where they have their breakdowns, like mental breakdowns. Why? Because they're carrying this heavy weight of glory that they shouldn't be, because we weren't created to carry that. God is the only one who can carry the weight of glory. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
That's good. Wow. Well, Nani.
Yes.
Thank you, obviously, so much for being here. I know there's a lot there that people are going to take in.
There could be more, but I'm like, I got to keep it.
We'll definitely do it again sometime. But right now, what are some things that you're working on that you want the people to hear about, share, whatever it is?
Working on? Currently working on making a baby, growing a baby. There aren't any new projects as of yet, but I just released my song. Oh my gosh, I went blank. What is my song? Sorry guys, it's pregnancy brain. Nombre sobre todo. Yeah, that's like my recent release, but I'm not working on anything as of late. So
okay, and where can they follow you? But I do plan
on releasing music sometime.
Stay tuned. Definitely stay tuned.
Uh-huh.
Where can they follow you?
You can follow me on TikTok, Nani Chavez 1, Instagram Nani Chavez, and Facebook Nani Chavez, I think, as well. Yeah. Okay,
awesome. All right, guys, thank you for watching. That's pretty much it. Y'all know where to find me. Everything, Instagram, TikTok. We're done here. Peace.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yay.